So today's topic is on sign-in stations or kiosks, whichever you call them. And so I wanted to kind of focus in on two different aspects. Really, we have basically our students that use these sign-in kiosks, or our tutors can use them as well. So we're just going to go through both kind of virtual and in-person options that you have available. So first, focusing on the in-person options for students here. You know, they have basically two different methods. You can either set up a computer as a traditional sign-in station. It looks kind of similar to what we see over here on the right. But this doesn't just happen automatically. You do have to actually design the heading here. You can choose whether you want them to have the message about a swipe reader. And you can also choose what buttons appear at the very bottom of this sign-in screen as well. So we can go ahead and look into these sections here. Another option that we have that we'll look at is downloading the IACU app for use with Accudemia. And basically that's available as a free download through the App Store. If you have any Apple devices, you do have to actually enable them as an admin. We're not going to go too in depth into how to use those Apple devices. That's a topic on its own. But just know that that's also another method that you can access those. And you would actually enable those under administration, sign-in station IACU. We will have these slides available too after the presentation if you need it. But let's look at a traditional sign-in station. So I'm going to switch over to, okay, and I'm going to log in with an admin. All right, so now I'm logged in with my admin. I'm going to go to administration and control panel. And the first section that we're going to visit is the appearance and themes section. You may not have all these options if you're not a full admin, but if you are, it's going to be in the website settings, appearance and themes. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to select the center that we're working in. So in my case, I'm looking at the Skills and Tutoring Center and View Settings. All right, so when you get in here, the top portion is basically designing like the header of that sign-in screen that we had seen. And you can see I've actually already built something in here. I can insert graphics. It is an HTML, what you see is what you get editor up here. So you can, make these headings. You can center the text, any kind of information that you think might be important to your users as they're signing in. Maybe you just want like a cheerful picture so that they get excited about coming in. However you want that. Now, there are two different options here though on the header type. So if you do full content, it's going to be everything you designed down here. If you do logo only, that's an option as well. And you'll see there's like a choose file for logo. So if I wanted to do that, I could just do my center's logo, or it could even just be an image. Maybe I just want to share an image there, and I don't want to design it or have to update it. So however you want to do that, those are the two different options you have. Now, the next option is whether or not to show the card reader information. So like, for instance, if you guys have a center and you're going to have everybody typing in their ID, and there's not really going to be like a card reader on every kiosk, you may want to just disable that message, and this is going to get rid of that card reader message. Another option is, let's say we're using something different than a regular swipe reader. So the default text kind of is for, if I just got a magnetic stripe reader and I'm going to have people swipe like a credit card. So you could have instructions for a different type of reader. So maybe it's a QR code reader, or maybe it's going to be a what are those, the RFID tag readers. So like if you issue out RFID tags, they could just tap on that and it'll fill in their ID. So if you need to, you can also update the text of the instruction. So instead of saying I think the default something like swipe your card. You can actually say, okay, tap the QR reader to enter your ID or something like that. And that's pretty much it. If you look, that's this whole section. You would want to save at the end once you're done. The other part of it is choosing what buttons appear at the bottom of your screen. And you might overlook that because it's in a different section. But if we go into the same control panel, but we go to General under Tracking Settings, then we select our center. And down here we have sign-in station options and sign-in options. Sign-in options are kind of like, if a non-existent student shows up, how do you handle that? Do you want to reject the sign-in, or do you want to record it anyway in standby? Maybe it's a new student or somebody who just got issued an ID card and they're not in your system. So that's one option there. And then in the sign-in station options, these are really some options that you can do while the users are signing in. So you can do things like hiding their ID while they're typing it. It's just going to put characters over it. Allowing them to see what tutors are signed in. Some people might want that, so there's a button that they can have down there to click and see that. I'm going to enable some of these so you can see what they look like. And then we have allow viewing which students are signed in, which most people are going to disable if it's student facing. But if you have your staff checking in students, this might be helpful if they want to be able to quickly see without having to log in what students are signed in currently. The other options we have are allow new students. This basically allows them to create themselves if they don't exist in the software. So rather than just recording them in standby, we would actually allow them to create themselves. If you can avoid it, if you don't deal with a lot of new students, I would recommend, not having that set. But I know in certain instances that might actually work pretty well. The last few options I have is allow homepage access. So generally, I would say this is okay to have. This basically gives you, as an admin, a button that you can click on from the sign-in station to quickly log into the back end and do anything that you need it to. You can disable that, but yeah, that's one that's kind of helpful. And this is really, do you want to have the students be asked if they want to report their visits to their instructors? So this is not really a button, but just an option that you can do while you're there. And if you didn't allow new students, you can design what they see on the heading of that screen. So it's going to pretty much be a basic form where they add their name and other information like contact information. So if I made any changes, I'm going to go ahead and save those here at the top. And then to actually view, or like, let's say I want to sign this computer as a sign-in station, I'm going to go to Quick Sign-in Station and select my center in the list. It already had mine pre-selected. And then all I have to do is hit Setup Kiosk and log out. Now, there are some options even here. If I want to disable the sign-in, let's say I only want it to be used for appointment sign-ins. And we have another kiosk set up for walk-ins and appointments and everything. Then I could uncheck this if I wanted to, but most people are going to leave that checked so that it can do walk-ins or appointments. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do that, set up kiosk and log out. And once it saves the cookie here, you'll see that sign-in station that I designed. And I think I left this enabled here so that they could, see that to swipe. And I'm kind of zoomed in just so you can see the elements a little bit clearer. But normally I might have it, zoomed out to regular size where they would be signing in. It tells me the center's name there. You can see the buttons that I enabled. So, you know, like if they want to see what tutors are signed in, you can click that. Oops. Let me log out. There we go. And if I want to see what students are signed in, there's a section for that. And then finally, there's a login option here. But these are all optional buttons. The only one you can't get rid of is the forgot your password. And this is here just in case you're requiring a password for sign in, which is very uncommon, or if they can't log in to the back end. Because students could actually, with this button, click that, log in, and if you allow them to make appointments or anything like that, they could actually go ahead and do that. That's why, you know, you might want to disable it on the kiosk so that you know, students won't be using the kiosk to make appointments. And if you had to, as an admin, you could always just change this to login to get to that login screen anyway. So where it said kiosk, you would just change that to say login in the URL. All right, well, that's a sign-in station, a regular computer sign-in station. There are other ways to get to it. If I go under administration, I can see sign-in station computers, and it basically brings up that same screen. And we also have under this main menu here, the offline devices called IACU. And this is where I would actually come in here and activate the devices. So like if I had a license for it, I could activate Janice's iPad here just by selecting it and clicking that. So, all right, let me go back. So those are for in-person visits, you know, the sign-in station on your computer or using the Apple app. And this is kind of like what that would look like, by the way. So we actually had some pictures or photos sent to us from a user where they actually encased like an iPad in plexiglass and had it, you know, ready for the student to log in. In fact, this is the admin unlock screen, but that way, you know, only admin could access the backend settings. All right, and then this is their virtual options. So they have two different options. It's going to either be a walk-in virtually, if you allow that, or through virtual appointments. Appointments are like one whole thing in itself, so I'm not going to go too much into that. But basically what you would want to do if you were going to do appointments is make sure that your services are set up as being online or virtual. Make sure that in the email templates there's a join link included. And then what would happen is when the students get emailed the confirmation messages or the reminders, they're going to just click that link to join the session. Or if they're already logged into Accudemia, they're going to click a join session button that's on the screen, like a green one on their home page. So that's how they would connect to virtual appointments and sign in and get counted as being present for that appointment. Now for the drop-ins, there's a little more setup involved because we have to have a link that we can share with the students so that they can join kind of like an online drop-in queue. And we also have to set up like the times that's going to be available. We don't want students, you know, trying to walk in at midnight and there's nobody available. So you would set those times up. And then you can also set any kind of exception. So maybe there's a day that you're actually offering extended services, or maybe there's an exception where, you know, you're not going to be available for that day because there's some kind of renovation happening or something like that. And then, so all these things are what we would set up, and these are how you get to it. And I'm going to show you real quick. So under center attendance, we have the virtual sign-in, and we have manage links, drop-in times, and exceptions. So manage links is just where I can actually see any of the links I've created before, or I can create a new one. And basically the steps for that is pretty simple. You're gonna pick your center, create like a welcome message when they first get to it. Maybe you want to provide some information. You can choose some pre-selection options where, maybe this link is for a specific service, or to meet with a specific tutor. You can have, these links be as customizable as you want, but we're going to leave it alone so that it's just a general link for the center, and they can pick from any service or any tutor. And then these are going to be instructions for joining the session. So this might be something specific to Zoom. If you're using Zoom, maybe you're using Teams, whatever the platform that you're using, you might want to provide some instructions here. And then you can either provide a general link if maybe you have like a lobby where they can all go into before starting the session and the tutors pull them out of. So if that's the case, you would just provide a general link here. Or this is kind of almost a better option, is it says use the tutors link them that is stored on them basically. So each tutor can have links associated with them, or they could have the Zoom integration. So that's going to allow you to kind of have a variable link in there and not be set to one link. And you could actually use Accudemia's waiting line if to manage those people before they actually get signed in. And that kind of takes us to this one where it says allow students to join while in the waiting line. So if you don't mind them starting the session early before the person signed them in, then you would check that as well. Of course, these links can have an expiration date. Maybe you only want to use it for that semester, so every 90 days you change it out. You could have it never expire as well. Sometimes it's good though to kind of refresh that link or whatever. But if you know you're not going to change it, then you could do that. And really at this point, you would just give it a name. So I'd usually name it, based on the settings that I used here. For this one, it would be just the center's name probably because it's directly to that center. Okay, so we get that in there. And I could describe it if I really wanted to, but this is really for my end on the back end for the admin. And when I create that link, I'm just going to be able to copy that, and I can share that anywhere I want to. So that could be on our website that the students would see, and you could advertise that they could join a virtual waiting queue. You could make a button out of it on your website, whatever you want to do, but as long as they can click that link and get to us, they'll be able to join that waiting line. Oh, and the other things that we didn't do is define our drop-in times. So when you get to this section, it might actually be completely blank the first time. I've actually gone in here and done this, but basically I click the new drop-in time. I pick the days of the week that this is going to apply to. So if I have different times on different days, maybe Friday's like different from the rest, so I could set one from and to time. Let's say 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Oop, the wrong one. And that's maybe most of the week, but then maybe we have extended hours on Friday, so maybe they're open till 8 p.m. I would just come back in here. I would save this first and then come back in here. Now, because this could be for multiple centers, you do need to select the center here too. But that's pretty straightforward. Exceptions are pretty similar. The only difference is you're going to say whether you're open or closed for this exception. So you would say like from, let's say there was a holiday coming up on the 11th for you guys, you'd apply that, and you could just change the time to right here. So I'd say maybe 8 a.m. and we'll just do the 11th as well. And we'll say till our closing time, which is 5 p.m. Apply that. So I've got basically the 11th is off, and I'm just making sure that it says closed and make sure I have my center selected too. So yeah, just double check everything before hitting save, And then on that date in particular, the drop-in line wouldn't be available. All right, so that's everything with the virtual drop-in. Let me get back to that. Okay, so those are the ways that students can virtually sign in. And then we're going to get to our tutors. Oh, and this is what the email would look like. Just from the preview of the email confirmation, they get a link that's similar from Accudemia.net so that they can join. And once they do, it'll just use whatever meeting platform you guys have saved on the tutors. And I've only got a few minutes here left, so we'll try to speed things up here. But this is the last thing. For tutor sign-ins, they can do in-person sign-ins, and they're just actually going to walk up to the same kiosk that the students go to. But unlike the students, they're not usually presented with anything. And I don't know if you can see, but this one's actually a student and a tutor. So they're going to click on the side that says sign as a tutor. And then once they do that, they might be presented with this task list. And the task list, if you do enable that, you'd have to build like, but this will be helpful if like you wanted to record the tutor's hours. Maybe they do regular work hours, but also work on other things. So you can build tasks for them to select from, but normally if you don't have that, then they just be signed in. Now, signing in online, when they're logged into the backend, like you are as an admin normally, they would just click on their name and there's a sign into location. So once they click on that, it's going to ask what location, if you have multiple locations. And once they pick the location, they might be asked for a task as well, you know, if you have that set up. But once that's done, they're going to be signed in. So they'll get like a green confirmation message to say they've either signed in or signed out successfully. And that's it. So now you know everything about sign-ins in Accudemia.
Yep.